Good evening. Welcome to Community Homeworks. My name is Tiana Harrison, and I am the Education and Volunteer Coordinator here. Tonight's workshop is going to be water heater maintenance, and we are so fortunate to have Mr. Gary Heckman. Wanted to let you know that if you're watching this broadcast for the first time, you are free to ask questions. You can put them in the comment box. We'll make sure that we answer them. If you are watching this on the replay, we'll still answer your questions. It just may take us a little longer to get to them. Community Homeworks is a nonprofit. We empower our neighbors to sustain safe, sustainable, and dignified homes. We get our fundings from grants, foundations, and gifts. So if you feel inclined to support us, please do so on our website at communityhomeworks.org. With that being said, I am now going to turn it over to Mr. Gary Heckman as he teaches us all about water heater maintenance.
Like on? Now you're on. Oh, okay. It wasn't. Okay. So good evening, everyone. I'm Gary, or Grandpa Gary, as I have the kids call me. And there's Jason, Chris, and can the rest of you introduce yourselves? Suzanne, Jessica, Lori. Okay. Well, I'll do my best. And so the first thing I do with every class is I make sure everybody has a valve. There. And we look inside the valve because we're all going to use, we all, by the end of the class, we need to know how to turn water on and off. Also, natural gas uses the same kind of valve. And if you turn the valve, suddenly you can't see through it. It blocks the flow. If you open the valve, if you close the valve. So those are your fidget spinners for tonight. I want you to get really familiar with them. And if you have no other takeaways from the class, you've got that. So the convention is we're blocking the flow or we're with the flow. All quarter turn valves follow that same convention. And it's really useful to know if you get involved with this, if your house springs a leak and you need to go down by the water meter and shut it off fast, it's just like that. You got it. So that's the first thing I want to make sure everybody knows. So most of the water heaters that everybody has in their homes are either going to be a gas with a metal exhaust system or a gas with a plastic exhaust system. There are going to be some of you that may have an electric tank type water heater. And a few of you, I know the Habitat homes and my home, we have a tankless gas. And then looking very much like this, but electric water heaters. So an electric water heater has a tank, but instead of a burner in the bottom burning gas, they have a couple of electric elements that work. So the electric elements work just like this little gizmo that you may have put in your teacup before, if you have. You've never done that. You've never put that in your teacup. Okay. That's how these electric elements work. You just put this in your teacup and heat it up. And that's how the electric water heater works. These are just in the tank about that level and down at that level, exposed to the water. And the thing that you will recognize on these used ones is tea kettle scale. So water heaters have to deal with, we can call it tea kettle scale. And obviously on the electric water heaters, it ends up there. In the gas water heaters, it ends up in the bottom. This is why we have water softeners to try not to have that scale. And then in the tankless water heater, there's a very large burner on a very small surface. So scale's also a problem there. And we do a white vinegar rinse on those to try to alleviate that. So one of the things we can do is show you how you go about lighting a water heater. And we can even run a burner on one later if somebody wants to see how that operates. And I could always try to follow the outline. So distinguishing between the traditional and the tankless. These are traditional. That's tankless. Here's a tiny tankless electric. That's we have one up here in the restroom.
Gary, can you tell us a little about what would be a benefit of one type of water heater over a different type?
Yes. So for a BTU of heat, 1 unit of heat, electricity costs often about 3 times as much as gas does. Gas is a very economical way of having heat. Now, the nice thing about electricity, always 100% efficient. You don't have any loss. This water heater, you're somewhere around 75-80% efficiency. This one, 80-85%. The burner efficiency isn't, you never get as good as electric. That one, now there you're getting like 95. You can be seeing 95% efficiency out of the tankless water heaters. So they really are good that way. There's some argument for just having a tiny water heater at each place you need the hot water instead of piping it around. There's some argument for it. Most of the time, the additional equipment and maintenance, it's hard to justify. But there are a number of these things that are debate. We were just having the debate, when you change your water heater, do you go to the tankless from the tank style? And those are legitimate debates. We had it at our house, and we went for it. At our house, the labor is cheap, so. Well, so in that case, that one's an electric, instantaneous, tankless, and it's not going to give you very much hot water. It's a really limited quantity. And to do tankless hot water, suddenly the wires coming into the heaters are huge. If you're trying to just replace what this will do, if you've had an electric water heater, you know you can run out for sure, and it takes a long time to get it back. It's just not near as big a burner. These are about 40,000 BTUs, and I'm just a little bit rusty. The electric elements we were looking at there are 4,500 watts times 3.4. So they're about 15,000 BTU compared to 40,000, less a little bit of efficiency drop. So they're typically the gas water heaters will have twice or more than twice the recovery of the electrics. So there is some argument, but an awful lot of people have the electrics are still pretty common. I will say these two traditional gas they're still 90% of what's out there. Just a touch of my background: for 29 years, I was at Manchester College, the head plumber over all the kind of stuff there, and steam operation. In the last 6 years, I'm a plumbing and mechanical inspector for a couple of townships nearby. And so I'm seeing this stuff every week, and I do see a few of those going in. And I do see a few electrics, even in brand new homes, a few electrics going in. But this is really mostly what everybody has, is these two. Oh, yes. If you have a tiny home, you're looking at something different. You're looking at something different at that point. Yes. I was always baffled at coffee makers. No, this is really simple. So the blue line, they color code much of it, and the blue line is the city water coming in under city water pressure, and the hot water going out under that pressure, and the heat's going on inside and being regulated. So you don't have it being pumped by the heat. Oh, okay. So let me take these off of here. Take the cover off and real quick show and tell. Oh, sure. Yeah. So I was saying this will have an input of 40,000 BTUs, and this has an input of 250,000. I mean, this burner is equal to 2 or 3 of these furnaces. So this is a big burner here. So are you familiar with your car radiator, how it looks with the fins? Okay. Well, so this is a piece of fin tube up here, and the flame is down here, regulated by 4 valves, and it's a pretty good size flame, and it's going up, being drawn through. Again, though, it's the city water pressure is pushing through and going. There are some flow switches, flow sensors that sense the water flowing and how much water is flowing and how much gas flame it can put under that amount of water. and it carefully regulates the water temperature coming out to you. So the thing is, you know, we're all familiar with our water heater tank running out of hot water, and these don't. These just keep going. They're making it at the rate you're using it, and they just, wow, could you run up a gas bill? But that's correct. Yes, yes. Um, yeah. Um, like a solar house, a tiny house, you're probably going to be willing to economize on the amount of hot water you have. A lot of people aren't. Okay. These systems, these three are for people that aren't trying to economize. They're, you know, they're just doing ordinary living and away they go. And they're also, because there are so many of them made, it's very competitive pricing on these things too. So you find these are kind of expensive for no bigger than they are. So this style can also come with a recirculation pump that keeps a little bit of, like a 1.5 gallon tank inside, and recirculates the water every so often, and you run an extra pipe out to the far end. And like at home, you know, the upstairs vanity, it's been setting overnight. The second ounce of water is hot. There's no delay. So that's, you know, that's a nice function you can get out of these. But then I was talking about the water heater scale. This piping is prone to scaling, the scale that we had on that. And that's why we do this white vinegar rinse once or twice a year on that system. And if anybody wants to, at the end here, we'll go through all the details of that, how we go at that.
I'm curious if there's anybody in the classroom who has an on-demand water heater and will be able to share, you know, with their experience. Do any of us have on-demand?
I had one, but I don't have it now since they replaced the new one.
You have one, but what?
I had one, but then when I had to get a new one, they replaced it
With the
that.
tank type.
And I only picked that just because it was a couple $1,000 cheaper.
Okay.
Right.
Other than that, I would have got it on demand, but the on demand was perfect because at that time the kids had to come back. They had their kids, and there was like 8 of us in the house, and we never, when we got up, so nobody had to wait around.
Right.
In the shower, I could just.
It,
Yeah. Is that this is the new one, the round wall? That's the one that replaced mine. It's on the floor.
okay.
But the water takes a long time for the hot water to,
If it doesn't, if you don't have the recirculation option, you're right. You have to start the water flow. The water has to start getting there. It has to replace all the water in that piping. At the same time, this burner system has to come to life and start heating. So it does take a bit. It does take a little bit. Even on right. Huh. Okay. Well, we have the thing where I have the hot water up in the far bathroom immediately, but it's not real hot, and then it cools off for a little bit, and then it comes back to temperature. So you step in the shower and you know it's going to go through this little bit of a, but it's not uncomfortable at all. It works fine. We will gladly teach you the entire vinegar rinse procedure on this. We will gladly do that. Yes. So a couple more things. Really universally on water heaters, they all have this. If you've ever had a pressure cooker and you've got that little safety valve that lets the steam off, okay, you're familiar with that one. So this is a variation of that. This will blow off at 150 pounds or 210 degrees. So this safety valve is very important. So all of these, you'll find it over there, you'll find it here, you'll find it on the electric, and I'm not too sure about this one. So, but it should be there. So there's a lot of safety and liability that rides on this. You know, should the burner mechanism get stuck on, this needs to function. This needs to function correctly. Yeah, literally houses have been blown off of the foundation. So these things are very important. They set right there. They can let the water out. They're sensing the temperature. And they always have a discharge tube that comes down within 4 inches of the floor. So it diverts that water down by the floor. You'd have to have your foot right under it to get cooked. You know, at this level, it's going to hit you, but the discharge keeps it down away and safe. So that's what the TMP, temperature and pressure valve, is about. Later, we'll do show and tell, and everybody's welcome to look inside of a water heater. The cold water going down to the bottom, the flue going up through the center. In this case, it's the metal flue. Anytime you see black pipe like this, it's most likely the natural gas line. This is the natural gas. If you have a kitchen stove that burns gas, this is the same gas, same pressure, and the same quarter turn valve, on, off. So if you need to get that thing shut off, you just walk up to it and shut it off. How many of you have tried to relight a water heater? Okay, so you know the procedure. Do you want us to go into a lot of detail on that? Okay. So I'll show it here, and then if Jason has a lighter, we will actually. You've got, okay. I believe you. Okay. So there's instructions. Of course, it's good to follow the instructions. They talk about letting it air out for a while. And like this one, you'll bring it from an off position to a pilot position. You'll hold this in, and then you start doing clicks, which is much like the I call them the long nose lighter or the barbecue grill. It's a piezoelectric spark element, and that will light. Sometimes you just wait and see if it did, or you get your eyeball and look way back at the pilot, and then you give it a minute or two, and then you release, and you turn it up to the temperature. And they're really nice. They they give you these instructions all in detail, but that's how the procedure goes. I'd like to go ahead and show you where we've taken this whole assembly. We've got it turned around out in the open over here and with actual gas to it. And we'll light it, let you see what the burner looks like burning, and see what you think of that. So if you want to come up this way, we'll go do that. There we go.
Can you walk us through what you're doing, Gary?
Sure. So at the bottom, like at the bottom of a cook pot, we've got the burner. Here, we've got a pilot. This one's called a standing pilot. It stays on. This is sensing the water temperature, and I'll show you how we light this. And we also haven't done this. Oh, you didn't catch me. Okay. I haven't done this. I haven't done this since COVID, and it's taken a little bit to get the line to purge. He's thinking about it. Yeah. This hasn't been. We haven't used this since before COVID, and I just set this up on here just before class. Eventually it will.
Did you break it, Gary?
I think I broke it. We'll give it another minute. Jason, what am I doing wrong here? Huh. I assume you've got gas on this far. Okay. Yes, this is a bit of technology I thought was reliable. Oh, now look at that. Oh, that's why. That's why I have this pan, because the pan acts like the bottom of the water heater. So I got it to purge there. The reason it let it come on is I had the lighter under the thermocouple long enough that it recognized that as being okay. Yeah, and there we can see that's the pilot light right there. This little flame, it's kind of hard to see here, isn't it? Yeah. So there, I'm turning it off. No, that's pilot. There's off. Yes, we can roast them. Okay, now here we go. You know what? I was just blind. I didn't see that pilot. I didn't see that pilot. Okay, it's that hard to see. But so the pilot, when you're holding this down, I brought this for show and tell. When you're holding this button down, what you're doing is compressing this little valve, and we're heating the end of the thermocouple, generating a little bit of electricity, and there's a nice electromagnet in there. And after it gets nice and warm, if we're holding this thing down, it'll stick, it'll hold. If I've got that tight enough, we can try to demonstrate that. Oh, you know what? Let's use the flame we've got. One of you want to do the honors on that?
How hard is it to burn your hair off on this?
Well, so there it is, not sticking. So I've got to tell, I did not get in a fight with Zorro. I did not. I was working on the car, and a piece broke, and the wrench hit me in the face, and I didn't say much. Yeah, so there it's stuck. You see it stuck. Now watch. It should spring right out there.
It's already out.
No. It holds until it doesn't. So if you lose the pilot flame, this is how the gas valve trips off. There it tripped. There it tripped. Yeah. I've been carrying this thing in my glove compartment since at least 2 years. Yeah, there it is. And then without the pilot flame, so there's a lot of safety in this valve. It's not going to let your house fill full of gas. That's what I'm there. Trips right out. There we go. And I will shut this off so we don't. What else do we need to cover, Jason?
Do you want to go over different things you can do to maintain it so that it lasts longer?
So the instructions with water heaters always tell us to flush this valve once a month, blow it down the drain. And it's wonderful advice, and 3 or 4% of the people probably do it. So, but it is worth doing. It is worth doing. You put a piece of hose It's a nice garden hose connection, so you can just put a piece of hose, run it down a drain, run it into a laundry tub. You have to open the valve, of course, to do it. You can do it with the water pressure on. You can also drain some with the water pressure off if you're not having to push it uphill too much. That valve doesn't. That one doesn't. It has like a screwdriver slot. Now, I have, for friends, I have swapped it out to one of these before because that's just a lot nicer. And you can get a fuller flow, a bigger opening. You probably saw from this scale, you get very many chunks of that. And you start to plug the valve. So it's a nuisance. With a valve like this, it's straight through. If you get a piece of something in there, you can get your coat hanger and make it work. So yeah, they should be on here. The instructions for how to flush should be on here. Yep. And if not, there's always YouTube. YouTube knows everything. We're trying to get this stuff to flush out of the bottom. That's what we're trying to do. Yeah, we're trying to get that stuff out of there. No, you just hook on here. Okay, yeah, to flush, you hook it on just like any garden hose. And then you take your screwdriver. You all carry a Swift Army knife, right? You take your screwdriver and you open that valve, which it could be stubborn. It doesn't have the leverage of a nice lever valve. So it could be stubborn to get that. A minute or so. Yeah.
Do you have any suggestions if people don't have a drain in their basement or a laundry tub or anything? What do you do?
You can drain it into a bucket. Yeah. If you could blow 5 gallons into a bucket, that would do some good. And then don't be embarrassed if you don't do it. Like I say, I think if people were honest, we probably don't have that many people that do it. So, so we've got this old metal stack goes in and goes up a chimney. It's good to see that the stuff hasn't rusted away. Sometimes it's all corroded away. The bad thing in really old houses is you can get birds and nests, and even the mortar from the lining will pile up and block this. As an inspector, sometimes I'll turn it on and just feel that right here, that within a minute, all the exhaust is going out and it's not pouring out. If your basement gets crazy humid and smells like your gas stove, there's a possibility that it's not going out. If you put your hands up like around here, well, literally. Now, they are allowed to spill for a few seconds, but you should be able to have your lighter, have it right here, and it'll stay lit. If that burnt flue gas is coming out, it doesn't have enough oxygen to support a flame right here if it's spilling out. So that is a simple test if you do ever have a problem like that. That's where the newer style is nicer. This has a fan motor. This has a fan that's blowing it out, and it has some pressure sensors. This is making sure that you've got a good exhaust path. So in that terms, it's a better deal. It's not that it's a lot more efficient. While it's able to be vented in plastic pipe instead of metal pipe, it turns out they're sucking in some room air to cool that. It's not that the exhaust is really that much cooler. So they tend to be a little more efficient, but not a huge amount more than this other style. Any other questions?
So what would the benefit? You're saying the benefit of having the newer one with the fan is that you don't get carbon monoxide back in the home?
You have a far less chance, and you can to vent this sideways and up a couple of floors can be a challenge. And this water heater, if you replace your old furnace and you have the plastic vented furnace, all of a sudden your chimney's not being your old chimney doesn't have enough use, and you have to put a liner down to make this work appropriately. So there are some things that go on that way. This is really nice that you can pipe this quite a long distance horizontally and through quite a number of bends. If you want to go a really long distance, you go up to the next pipe size. You're allowed to go to a bigger pipe size and go even farther. So, potentially something like as much as 100 feet. But you're not going to be installing these yourselves, but that's, the differences. You get some things like that.
Are there any drawbacks with that one with the plastic pipe over the metal? I mean, the other way, like, are there ways that the old metal one is better?
If you ever have to replace this, oh my goodness, it costs. Now, happily with Amazon and eBay, not like it used to. So, you can, and then again, if you're having to hire a company to do it, it's going to cost dearly. So yeah, this piece, and most often they outlive the tank. So that's not a big drawback that you have that, but most often they outlive the tank. Water heater tanks don't last forever, unfortunately, and it varies with, do you have a water softener? If you have a water softener, they can last a long, long time. If you don't, the scale causes problems and hot spots, and the coating on the steel tank inside goes bad, and eventually you end up with leaks. Jason, what's your experience here in Kalamazoo on the Kalamazoo water? It's very hard, and
so the number one thing that happens with tank-type water heaters in Kalamazoo is rusting out.
Yeah. And in 7 years, 10 years, yeah.
Usually right after the warranty.
Right. Yeah. So that's one of those things in your budget. Always have a little cushion because it can happen. Here we've got where somebody's put some insulation on, and pipe insulation is good on the hot side. Well, and on the cold side, it can keep it from sweating. I'm okay to see it right down here on this style because we're plastic vented. Things aren't that hot. Over here, this stuff's pretty hot. I don't want to see insulation until we're, like 4 inches, 6 inches away from this pipe. I don't want to see that insulation right against that pipe. The inspector's picky. So
what happens with the fan when the power goes out?
When the power goes out, even though you've got all the gas in the world, you're not going to get any more hot water produced here. You do have a whole tank full of water to draw from hot water, but you're not going to get any more when the power goes out. The happy thing with this old style, we don't have, here we go. This style, we plug it in. This style, we don't. So in a power outage, this thing works beautifully. It doesn't care at all. So there is an advantage to the old style. There sure is.
What about the on-demand? Like, do they work in a power outage?
No. Except mine. I have a UPS, uninterruptible power supply you use with computer systems. So I have a UPS that backs the power up for 7 hours.
So are you installing the GPS with whoever showed up today for free?
Jason's holding a raffle here at the end. Okay. Live with a worry wart. And try to take care of her. So, there are times people will put extra insulation on. That's not a terrible idea, but the insulation code is so high on these today. It's a nice foam jacket. It's probably not really necessary. And it's not a good idea to put an insulation jacket on and to start covering these air intakes. These air intakes are really important. If by chance you do put any insulation on, stop about there. Don't get it into there. It used to be a real thing to do when the insulation quality on the tanks wasn't very good, but people worry about the amount of standby loss, and there definitely is some, which is an argument for the tankless. In round numbers, out of your gas bill, about 10% of it goes into the water heater. So, there's the argument that if we can produce the hot water 10% more economically, that's a good thing. And then if we look at the total bill, that's like 1% of the bill. So, again, there are things you debate back and forth. So you said you did have a tankless.
I did have one of the on-demand, but it was weird because the furnace actually went out, and so when I called and the furnace went out, he was telling me like, hey, you probably should check your central air thing and stuff. But then he goes outside and he's like, you have no guts in here, and I was like, what? And he's like, yeah, everything is missing out of your unit. So he was like, it was best for me to do both of them at the same time. So he's like, I gotta go to the basement and look at the chimney. And then he goes, hey, you got water in your basement? I said, the basement doesn't leak. He's like, it's not coming from the outside. So then he looked, there was a crack in the hot water heater. I was like, you got to be kidding. And I was just down there the day before, and it wasn't like that. So I had to replace all three of them at the same time. So when he went to do it, it was priced out for me to do another on-demand, but for financial reasons for me.
Yeah.
One of these because it was a couple $1,000s.
Oh yeah.
And I was doing all three of them at once.
Oh my goodness.
Already, like, singing to God and doing all kinds
Oh
of
my
things
goodness.
just for that. So I didn't want to push it, so I just got one.
Yeah. Yes. Oh no. That makes sense. Somebody stole your condensing unit. They just stole it.
The unit was out there for the air conditioning, for
Right.
the central air.
Right.
But everything in it, he was like, and I was like, what? And I went outside, and he's like, yeah, somebody took all the, and he's like, you don't use it, and I was like, well, me and consumers aren't really tight, and during the winter months, they're kind of high and be friendly, so I try not to use the air conditioner, so I just sit under the fan, and he was like, yeah, it's all gone. Somebody took all the stuff out.
Oh,
There's
there's the value of the scrap copper, the scrap aluminum, and the steel, the scrap metals. That's I hadn't heard of it around here. There are towns like Miami that they sell a lot of guards. They put them under cages to keep people from stealing them. Yeah, you don't see that around here. Right.
It just started out with that, and when he was down, something about the chimney that he had to look at for the air
Okay.
conditioner in the water was on the floor, and he was like, "It's not coming from the windows, it's not coming from outside." And when he looked, there was just a tiny crack
Right.
in the on the. And I was like, "I was just down here yesterday morning. There was no water, and it was just like that. It was just a tiny crack."
Oh,
Yeah, but then when he so that is water, crack. Yeah, it was a crack in the water heater.
in the on-demand water heater.
Yeah.
Oh, that's unusual.
Yeah.
Okay.
It was on the floor. I had water on the floor right there, because I like it because it doesn't take up space.
Right.
And
Right.
it's also with so much more space down there.
Yeah.
And stuff, and it just so happened. I was like, that was not like that. He's like, I don't know, but it worked out as far as with them being there because
Yeah.
it cut down on the labor costs as far as them coming back and doing something else and stuff, but it was still
Right.
pretty expensive and stuff. Yeah, so.
Wow. Wow. So I'll give you just a quick demonstration right here. So what we do to do this vinegar rinse, we shut. Oh, yes. Okay. So this is just an ordinary sump pump, the smallest ordinary sump pump. And you have enough valves here, and this is no, if you have one, come stand here. Should we go do it with the real system? It's time to go do it with the real system. Let's do that.
If you'd like to learn how to flush out an on-demand, we'll go up to the other one. We're going to close out on the online thing, so we'll do that first.
So I just wanted to thank everyone for their participation and say that we will see you next Tuesday, same place, same time. Thank you.